This presentation is brought to you by Arizona State University's Julianne Wrigley Global Institute of Sustainability and a generous investment by Julianne Wrigley.
So, to conclude, what can we do about it? First, probably most importantly, we have to take notice. I have come to the view that our biggest challenge of everything we have is our attention span, which is probably the only truly limited resource we have. And it is really crowded right now. We're bombarded with more bits per second than could have ever been imaginable because we discovered how to transmit more data, probably a billion-fold improvement in our capacity to bombard our brains with virtual imagery than ever before. So I think the biggest fight we have is attention. How to get the attention. That this is a serious problem and that we have to direct our resources and our technologies to solving the problem. That, to my mind, is the hardest thing of all. So that's why I like the idea of having global goals and anything that says we are agreeing to do something. Because a lot of cynics say, what difference does it make? But my experience is that if we can agree on some bright headline ideas, we can improve our capacity to focus attention on those areas. 15 years ago, the world adopted Millennium Development Goals about fighting poverty. I've been the UN's main advisor on those for the last 14 years. And while we haven't paid too much attention in the US, because thank God we don't have extreme poverty that way, they played a very big role in other parts of the world. And I'm hoping that Sustainable Development Goals can do the same thing, can at least say, wait a minute. We've got a serious set of challenges. It's our time, our generation, and we have to take this on. So what do we need substantively? And these are the kinds of goals that will be adopted. As I said, number one will be end extreme poverty. Health for all, basic health coverage, absolutely feasible. Educational access, absolutely feasible, because now you can put a solar panel and a monitor and wireless broadband anywhere in the world, in any village in the world, and suddenly you have access to 100,000 free books. You don't need the library. You can have the virtual library. You can have the curriculum and all the rest. So we can do fantastic things if we try. Technically, we have, I believe, four big challenges to become sustainable. The first is to shift to a low-carbon energy system, and to do that by mid-century. That's not simple, because we have grown up, the whole world economy has grown up on fossil fuels. Without fossil fuels, no modern economy, period. So between James Watt and Henry Ford and Thomas Edison, we really got on our way. And so we're a fossil fuel world economy, but we can't continue to be and remain safe. But fortunately, we have multiple options for how to address that. We need to move to a low-carbon energy system. We need smarter agriculture, again, information-intensive agriculture, because agriculture is the number one earth-changing system. It's the largest single sector for those planetary boundaries. Whether it's fertilizer, water use, deforestation, or greenhouse gas emissions, agriculture comes number one. And a big problem is we're going to add a couple billion people to the planet on our current demographic trajectory. We could probably stabilize at 9 billion, but we're on a trajectory to reach 11 billion right now. And so how to feed a growing planet when agriculture already itself is not sustainable. And that requires massive technological changes. We need smarter cities that are much more efficient in energy use. Again, information technology can allow a revolution in transport, in power, in other urban infrastructure. And then finally, I believe that with information technology, we can make revolutionary changes in health, education, and other social services in ways that can reach everybody in the world, and by the way, dramatically lower our health care costs in the United States as well if we cared to do it. The reason we have the highest cost healthcare systems is that the health lobby and the health industry wants it that way, not because it has to be that way. So we could make a massive transformation and just in this country alone save hundreds of billions of dollars, and ICT could enable us to do that. So that would be my 4-point program. And I was going to go through some details of that, but I've really exceeded our time, except to say that if you look closely at any of these challenges, they're absolutely within reach. And they're not even so costly. It's hard to make the case that getting climate change under control would cost more than 1% of world output per year. Maybe 2%, but it's hard to reach even that level. We'll be much better than that. Most estimates say between 0 and 1% of world output. That's a good bargain for saving the planet. And it's consistent with still continuing sharp increases of living standards. So there's nothing about these challenges that stops development, that prevents us from ending poverty, but it does require us to put some resources aside, both to invest in the underlying science and technology, and to spend a little bit more upfront for more sustainable energy systems so that we don't bear the costs later on of the explosive changes from climate change and other disruptions. But it's not like 10 or 20% of our GNP, or it's not like the end of economic progress. It's actually ridiculous how small the costs are compared to the gains in well-being and in safety. And it finally comes back again to this question of attention span. And I'll end here. I like very much what Pope Francis said a year ago when he said that the biggest crisis on the planet was what he called the globalization of indifference, which strikes me as exactly the right definition, which is we just aren't paying attention. If we paid attention, and if the students here and because you're going to be the ones leading this, do the good homework, the careful costing, the research, the systems design, the demonstration projects, and so forth, if we're given the chance to do this, we're going to find that it's all within reach.
This presentation is brought to you by Arizona State University's Julianne Wrigley Global Institute of Sustainability for educational and non-commercial use only.